Ada stood at the old wooden door, her heart pounding in her chest. She had heard the raised voices of her in-laws as they argued about her and her 2 young boys. The air felt thick with the weight of their harsh words, and she knew something terrible was coming. Just yesterday, she'd overheard them whispering that she was nothing but a burden, an unwanted guest who had overstayed her welcome. As the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky with hues of orange and fading purple, Ada felt a cold chill seep into her bones. When the door swung open with a creak, it revealed her in-laws' stern expressions. Without warning, they shoved Ada outside into the gathering darkness. She stumbled forward, clutching her boys to her side as they all huddled together against the evening chill. "Don't come back," one of them shouted after them, slamming the door with a finality that echoed in Ada's ears. They were out in the cold now, cold enough to nip at their cheeks and numb their fingers. Ada could only look back at that door for a moment before it vanished from view, swallowed by shadows. "Mommy," whispered young Eli, his small hand gripping hers tightly. His brother, Jonah, nestled close against Ada's side, trembling slightly from fear and cold. She knelt down to their level and tried to put on a brave face. "It's okay, we'll be all right," she said softly, though inside she felt anything but certain. As night descended around them, despair threatened to wrap its icy fingers around Ada's heart. With nowhere else to go and no one else to turn to, they wandered down the path alongside their old cottage, the only home they'd known for so long, and into the nearby woods. The trees loomed like tall shadows under the moonlight, their branches creaking softly with the wind. "Where will we sleep?" Eli asked in a quavering voice that pulled at Ada's heartstrings. "We'll find a safe place," she reassured him as she tried desperately to suppress her own fears for them all. They moved deeper into the woods until they found a clearing where dense trees formed a natural circle, a small refuge from all that cold air. Shivering uncontrollably now, Ada gathered some fallen branches and dried leaves in an attempt to start a fire. Her hands trembled not just from the cold but from hopelessness. "I wish things were different," she mumbled under her breath as she struck flint against stone again and again without success. Suddenly, as if answering her silent pleas for help, footsteps approached through the underbrush. A rugged figure emerged from among the trees, the light of an ember glinting off his scruffy beard set against his warm eyes. "Hey there," he said gently, taking note of their shivering forms. "Who are you?" Ada asked warily while holding on to her boys closer. "My name is Cole," he replied softly with an easy smile that warmed something inside her even more than any fire could offer. "I saw you folks out here and thought you might need some help." Relieved but still cautious, Ada nodded cautiously as Cole kneeled beside them to help gather more wood for firewood. In moments, crackling flames danced brightly before them, a vibrant warmth in stark contrast to their recent experience. They huddled close around it as Cole began telling stories about his travels, the wild adventures across vast plains and encounters with gentle creatures of nature. His words painted vivid images that twirled around them like fireflies on warm summer nights. In those moments, by the flicker of protection offered by flaming logs, Ada felt something begin to thaw within herself, a sense of safety beginning to take root where despair once lingered heavily like fog on a winter morning. For that night at least, while shadows danced around them, they were free from cruelty. They were not just cast-aside souls but people finding comfort anew by a gentle campfire under starlit skies. As night fully enveloped the world around them, the chill air seemed to creep under Ada's skin, biting hard at her exposed arms and fingers. The stars shone bright and cold in the vast black sky, offering no warmth or comfort to her and her boys. The woods felt alive with sounds, the rustling leaves whispering secrets, owls hooting mournfully, and the distant snap of twigs under unseen paws. Each noise heightened their sense of vulnerability, making the shadows feel more daunting. "Mommy, it's so cold," Eli whimpered as he snuggled closer against Ada's side. She could feel his body trembling not just from the temperature but from fear as well. Jonah, too young to fully grasp their situation, clutched her dress with wide, innocent eyes filled with confusion and worry. Ada's heart ached for them. She felt helpless and small against the unforgiving night. "We'll find a place to stay warm," she promised them softly, though she could hardly believe her own words. The path ahead appeared dark and uncertain. There were no familiar landmarks to guide them, no welcoming lights to offer hope. Every step felt heavier as dread settled within her chest like a stone. They continued walking, pushing further into the dense trees where branches tangled overhead like skeletal arms reaching out to ensnare them. With each gust of wind that swept through the trees, Ada shivered despite her attempts to protect her boys. She wrapped an arm around both of them tightly, hoping her warmth would shield them from the cold seeping into their bones. "Look at those stars," she said brightly, forcing a smile as they walked, a trick for herself more than for them. "They're like little diamonds up there." They're watching over us. Eli nodded but remained silent, his small hands clenching onto hers fiercely. After what felt like hours stumbling along in darkness, they finally spotted a clearing up ahead. Relief washed over Ada as she guided them toward it. Here, surrounded by a circle of trees thick enough to block some of the biting wind, they could at least rest for a moment. But relief faded quickly when they realized just how exposed they still were without shelter or supplies to keep warm. The ground was hard and cold beneath their feet. They needed a fire, a spark that could turn this dark misery into some semblance of safety. Her hands trembled with urgency as she searched for dry sticks and fallen branches among the damp leaves scattered on the forest floor. With every attempt to gather firewood and every scrape against coarse bark and chilly earth, despair washed over her again like a wave threatening to drown her spirit. "Come on," she murmured to herself under her breath, striking flint against stone again and again in vain as sparks flickered briefly only to die out in the damp air. Tears stung her eyes, not from defeat alone but from fear of what this might do to Eli and Jonah if they couldn't find safety. What would become of them? Would they be forced to spend the night shivering under these uncaring stars? Would hunger haunt their little bellies? Just then she heard footsteps approaching. Her heart skipped in hopeful anticipation but also raced with apprehension of potential danger lurking nearby in the darkened woods. As shadows shifted among tree trunks, an unexpected figure stepped forward, Cole, with kind eyes and an approachable smile that seemed almost magical against the night's shadows. "Are you all right?" he called gently as he approached with concern etched on his face. "Yes," Ada replied hesitantly. "We're just looking for a way to stay warm." He knelt beside her without hesitation and began gathering wood, his hands adeptly arranging it into a pile while whispering encouragements that soothed some of her frayed nerves. In moments that seemed both fleeting yet eternal, flames flickered awake before them. As warmth wrapped around them like a blanket stitched together by friendship instead of fabric, Ada let out a breath she hadn't known she'd been holding. They could chase away some of that cold together now, the flickering glow embodying hope in stark contrast to all that had happened before this wondrous moment under starry skies. As Ada huddled close to the flickering fire, feeling the warmth lap at their cold limbs, a rustle in the nearby brush caught her attention. She instinctively pulled her boys closer to her, unease flickering in her heart. Just when fear began to surge again, a figure stepped out of the shadows, his silhouette illuminated by the firelight. Cole Ramsey was a sight to behold. He appeared weary from travels yet radiated a certain kindness that seemed to light up even the darkest woods. His clothes were simple and worn, faded denim, a rugged shirt, and sturdy boots that had seen many miles. Stray strands of brown hair fell across his forehead as he approached with caution, his expressive eyes scanning Ada and her boys for signs of distress. "Are you all right?" Cole asked gently, concern heavily laced in his voice. His tone was warm and inviting, making Ada relax momentarily despite her apprehension. With a hesitant nod, she replied, "We're just looking for a way to stay warm." Her heart raced as she studied him closely. She could almost feel the weight of all they had endured etched across her face as she spoke. Cole crouched beside them without any hesitation. "You need more than just warmth," he said softly. "You need some semblance of safety." He pulled off his heavy jacket and offered it to the boys first, letting them revel in its comforting embrace. The fabric smelled faintly of leather and smoke, an aroma that told stories of long stretches under open skies and campfires under twinkling stars. "What are you doing out here?" Ada finally asked after noticing how relaxed Eli had become with Cole's presence, as if sensing they were no longer alone against the night. "I'm just a cattle drifter," he answered simply, shrugging his shoulders as if to downplay his own situation. "Been moving from one ranch to another, looking for work where I can find it." As he stacked sticks onto the embers to make their fire grow brighter and provide better heat, Ada could see how deftly he worked. Every move was practiced and sure. It seemed second nature to him. This life on the road had taught him many things about survival. "I saw some movement in these woods while I was on my way to find a campsite for myself," he continued casually. "Then I spotted you three huddled together like little birds trying to keep warm. I couldn't just walk by." His words struck Ada then, the image of them resembling birds trapped in a harsh winter deepened the ache within her heart. They had indeed been left out for cold winds to thieve their security away. Finding themselves at such an intersection with Cole felt like an unexpected slice of good fortune amid heartbreak. "Thank you," she murmured from somewhere deep inside. A whisper charged with unexpressed gratitude for someone who'd shown such kindness when everything around them felt desolate and cruel. "I'm just doing what's right," Cole replied lightly while starting the fire anew with expertise. Branches crackled as flames licked hungrily at them. The warmth burst forth again after moments drowning in chill. Eli lifted his head then. Curiosity brightened his expression as he watched Cole's every move with fascination. "Can you tell us stories?" he begged softly. Cole paused for a moment, amusement lighting up his eyes as they danced in the flickering glow of the fire. "Stories? Sure. Anything better than sitting silently through this bitter cold." Soon voices filled the night air, warm ones built from fantasy and adventure, painted intricately between playful shadows cast upon bark-worn trees by their small campfire. There was laughter mingling with each tale spun. Gradually, Ada saw worry slip away from Jonah's young face too. Tonight wouldn't erase all they had faced, but buoyed by this unexpected friendship forged amid despair, a tiny flame illuminating their journey forward, it brought them something they had never expected in such dire circumstances: hope. As the fire crackled to life, its warm glow pushed back the darkness that surrounded Ada and her boys. The flames danced eagerly, casting flickering shadows on the trees while illuminating their weary faces. The campfire became a beacon of hope in the blackness, wrapping them in a comforting embrace that felt almost magical after their ordeal. Cole, with his skilled hands, tended to the fire with care, adding more wood to keep it alive and vibrant. "A good fire is like a friend," he said lightly, glancing at Ada with a reassuring smile. "It gives you warmth and light when you need it most." His words resonated deeply within her heart as she realized this moment was more than just physical comfort, it was an emotional refuge from the cruelty they had faced. Eli and Jonah watched in awe as the flames leaped up high, their little faces illuminated by the golden light. For the first time since being cast out into the cold, they seemed to forget their fears, captivated by the magic of the fire's glow. Cole noticed their delight and grinned. "How about something to eat?" he asked, reaching into his pack. He pulled out a small tin filled with simple provisions, dried fruits, nuts, and some jerky he had saved from his travels. He offered each of them a piece, watching as their eyes widened in surprise and anticipation. "This isn't much," he explained as he handed them snacks, "but it will help fill your bellies tonight." Ada accepted the food gratefully, her heart swelling with gratitude for this stranger who had become a lifeline in such a dark time. "Thank you," she whispered, feeling warmth spread through her chest, not just from the campfire but from Cole's kindness. As they munched on their meager meal, Cole settled down beside them, leaning back comfortably against a tree trunk while keeping an eye on the fire. The warmth enveloped them like a thick blanket, making it easier for Ada to relax despite everything that had happened earlier in the evening. "Tell us more stories," Eli urged between bites of jerky. His innocence shone brightly even amid uncertainty. It was a spark that ignited hope in Ada's heart. Cole chuckled softly at Eli's enthusiasm. "All right then. Let me tell you about my last adventure." With that invitation, he began recounting tales of traveling through vast plains where wildflowers bloomed like colorful patches across green fields and rivers ran so clear one could see fish darting beneath the surface. His voice painted vivid pictures that swirled around them, the adventures of brave cowboys facing storms and secret hideouts where lost treasure lay waiting to be found. As Cole spun his tales, laughter bubbled up among them, a sound that rebounded against the trees like joyful music breaking through silence. With every story shared around that campfire, Ada felt layers of fear peel away like autumn leaves shedding from branches. The flickering flames gave birth to warmth not just physically but emotionally too. Hope flickered alive in her heart once more. Night deepened around them while stories wove connections stronger than any bond money could buy, an unspoken understanding blossoming between Cole and Ada as they all sat together under starlit skies wrapped in friendship forged by moments shared by firelight. Eventually, even Jonah's eyelids grew heavy as he leaned against Ada's side for comfort. The fire continued to crackle softly while shadows danced playfully along its edges, an eternal reminder of how love and kindness could thrive even in the darkest of times. In that precious circle of warmth created by both fire and companionship, Ada realized they were no longer just cast-aside souls but part of something greater, a family knitted together by resilience against all odds. Finding safety amidst uncertainty under Cole's gentle watchfulness. As the campfire crackled softly under the blanket of night, Cole settled comfortably against a nearby tree, his eyes sparkling in the firelight. He glanced at Ada and her boys, their faces glowing with warmth from the flames, and felt a surge of inspiration. "All right, who's ready for some stories?" he asked, his voice brimming with enthusiasm. Eli's eyes widened in excitement while Jonah leaned in closer to listen intently. "Me. Tell us about the treasure," Eli exclaimed, eager for adventure. "Treasure, huh?" Cole replied with a chuckle. "Let me think." He paused for a moment before launching into a tale that transported them far away from their cold woods. Once upon a time, in a far-off land where the mountains kissed the sky, there lived a brave young girl named Lila, he began, his voice rich with imagination. Lila loved exploring the wildflower fields near her home. One day, while wandering further than she ever had before, she stumbled upon an ancient map hidden beneath some rocks. As he spoke, Ada could see Eli's imagination igniting like the fire before them. His bright eyes sparkled with wonder as he envisioned Lila's journey. Cole described how Lila followed the map's winding paths through dense forests filled with magical creatures, talking animals and friendly sprites who guided her on her quest to find lost treasure buried deep within a mystical cave. Cole used his hands to gesture animatedly as he painted picture after picture with his words. The cave was dark and mysterious, he said dramatically. But Lila was brave. She took a deep breath and stepped inside. And do you know what she found? He leaned closer to them, his voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. What? Jonah asked eagerly, shifting closer to the fire. A mountain of gold coins. But more importantly, Cole continued with an inviting grin, she discovered that true treasure isn't always gold or jewels, it's about the friendships you make and the adventures you share. The boys burst into laughter at that revelation. Eli clapped his hands excitedly while Jonah giggled softly. Cole smiled at their joy. It was clear these stories were lifting burdens from all their shoulders. Encouraged by their reactions, Cole transitioned into another story, a tale about a dashing cowboy named Jake who rode across open plains searching for lost cattle. Jake faced fierce storms and wild animals but never lost hope because he knew that friendship was worth every challenge he faced, just like Lila before him. As he recounted Jake's daring exploits battling against nature's fury to protect his herd, Ada couldn't help but feel something beautiful stirring within her, a sense of belonging blossoming stronger among them. The power of storytelling transformed the bleakness around them into vibrant colors full of life and possibility. With each tale spun by Cole's voice rich in detail and adventure, the shadows lurking beyond their warm circle faded into mere whispers of night. They were no longer three souls tossed aside by cruelty, they became voyagers embarking on journeys through lands both wild and wonderful. Tell us one more. Eli pleaded after Cole finished yet another captivating narrative about mystical creatures guarding enchanted forests. Cole laughed warmly before nodding appreciatively at their enthusiasm. With every story shared under the stars shimmering above like precious gems scattered across velvet fabric, all pain and fear seemed distant now. Laughter enveloped them like snuggly blankets against winter chill outside their protective cocoon. By weaving stories together around the campfire, the flickering flames mimicking life itself, they discovered resilience intertwined with friendship born from shared experiences steeped in laughter amid darkness ever surrounding them. In this special moment forged by storytelling warmth and escape crafted solely from hope, they realized adventure awaited beyond every corner if only they chose to believe in it fiercely enough, just like Lila or Jake had done before them. As the night deepened and the stars shone brightly overhead, the warmth of the campfire felt like a comforting blanket wrapped around Ada, Eli, and Jonah. The flickering flames danced with life, casting playful shadows on their faces as laughter echoed softly through the trees. With each story Cole shared, the bond between them grew stronger, weaving an invisible thread of connection that began to fill the void left by their earlier hardships. Tell us about the time you met a bear. Eli urged, his eyes sparkling with excitement. Cole chuckled at the request, and the warmth of his laughter blended seamlessly with the crackling fire. Ah, that was quite an adventure, he began, leaning in as if sharing a secret. I was out on the range one day when I came across a mother bear with her cubs. I knew I had to keep my distance to stay safe, but they were so cute. I watched them play in the grass for a while, and it made me realize how important family is even in the wild. As Cole spoke, Ada's heart swelled with gratitude for this kind drifter who had brought adventure and laughter into their lives at such a dark moment. She glanced over at her boys, who were hanging on to every word. Their giggles erupted as Cole exaggeratedly described how he had accidentally tripped over a rock and sent a nearby pile of berries flying everywhere, much to the bear's delight. In those moments of shared laughter, Ada felt something she hadn't experienced in what felt like ages, a sense of belonging that transcended her previous fears and worries. Though they had been cast aside by others, here they were, together with Cole, finding joy amidst uncertainty. After finishing the bear story, Cole turned his attention to Ada. What about you? Do you have any funny tales from your travels? He asked gently. At first, she hesitated. Memories of her past seemed heavy and bittersweet. But as she looked into Cole's encouraging eyes and saw Eli and Jonah beaming back at her with expectation, She found her voice. "Well," she began slowly, "there was this one time when I tried to bake bread without enough flour." She recounted her kitchen mishap that ended in an explosion of flour dust filling their small home. Her boys erupted into laughter at the mental image, their eyes wide with amusement. As they shared stories of mishaps and adventures, Ada realized how these connections were more valuable than any material possessions they had lost. They weren't just strangers sitting by a fire, they were becoming a family bonded by shared experiences filled with warmth that no cruel words or actions could diminish. Cole's tales continued to flow as freely as the fire crackled nearby. He spoke of times he'd traveled to distant ranches where people welcomed him like family despite his humble means. Each story painted a picture of community and kindness. It inspired Ada to cherish this newfound bond even more deeply. Eventually, tiredness crept into Jonah's sleepy smile and he leaned against his mother's side with a contented sigh. Eli too began to yawn, their little bodies relaxed under the gentle glow of firelight. Sensing that bedtime was near, Cole moved slightly closer to them, his voice softening into a soothing tone. "You know," he said quietly, "in every journey we take, whether it's through forests or over mountains, the most important thing we carry is each other." Ada felt tears prick at her eyes, overwhelmed by gratitude for this drifter who had shown them kindness when they needed it most. Here under starlit skies with laughter filling the air around them, they had found a sense of belonging not defined by wealth or possessions but instead forged through love and understanding. As she looked around at her boys snuggled up close beside her and Cole's warm presence next to them, Ada understood that together they could face whatever challenges lay ahead because they now carried something far more precious than before. Family forged in friendship under the embrace of a flickering firelight filled with stories that brought them closer than ever before. As the darkness of night faded away, a soft glow began to emerge on the horizon, casting gentle hues of pink and orange across the sky. The first rays of sunlight stretched out like comforting arms, inviting Ada, Eli, and Jonah to witness the dawn of a new day. It felt as if the world was awakening anew, just as they were. Ada stirred from her slumber, feeling the warmth of the campfire still flickering beside her. But a new warmth was rising in the air around them. She looked down at her boys, both nestled against her side. Eli's face was peaceful while Jonah slept soundly, oblivious to the beauty unfolding above them. In that moment, Ada realized how much they had transformed throughout the night. They were no longer merely victims of circumstance. They were survivors discovering hope. As she stood up and brushed the sleep from her eyes, Ada gazed at Cole, who was stirring the remaining embers of their campfire into life. His presence felt reassuring. He had been a guide through their darkest moments and had become an unexpected friend. "Good morning," he greeted her with a warm smile. "What do you think about starting our day with a little breakfast?" The thought of food made Ada's stomach rumble, but more importantly, it filled her with gratitude for Cole's thoughtfulness. Together, they prepared a simple meal using what little supplies he had left, a mix of dried fruits and nuts along with some warm water for tea. As they shared their breakfast by the fire, the sun rose higher in the sky, illuminating everything around them in golden light. "That sun is like a fresh start," Cole remarked as he handed a piece of fruit to Eli. "It reminds us that every day carries new opportunities." Ada nodded in agreement. She felt these words resonate within her, echoes of wisdom that spoke to her heart. Not long ago, she felt lost and abandoned, cast aside by those who should have been family. But sitting there with her boys and Cole, she recognized that love could take many forms. The warmth they had shared with one another during their time together, the laughter and stories had woven together a strong fabric of connection that would carry them into whatever lay ahead. "Mommy," Eli said suddenly, breaking the peaceful silence around them as he pointed to the brightening sky. "Look at those colors. It's like magic." His innocent excitement brought a smile to Ada's face, a reminder that even in tough times, joy could bloom like wildflowers pushing through cracks in concrete. She realized that their journey was not just about survival, but also about embracing moments like these that ignited hope and possibility. As they packed up their small campsite, Ada felt lighter than she had in ages. With each item she stashed away, cozy memories mingling with practical needs, she knew they were stepping into a new chapter of their lives filled with promise. It was no longer about escaping cruelty, it was about seeking out kindness and community wherever it might be found. "Thank you for everything, Cole," she said sincerely as they finished tidying up. "I don't think we would have made it through without you." The words carried an emotional weight. She understood now that love and support could come from unexpected places. He smiled again, a genuine expression that seemed to light up his entire being. "We all need each other," he replied simply. "You're stronger than you realize." With renewed strength in her heart and hope for what lay ahead, Ada took Jonah's hand while guiding Eli along as they began to walk down the path leading from their night beneath the stars. Together with Cole alongside them, they ventured into the sunrise, a symbol of renewal, to embrace whatever life had next in store. In that moment, Ada understood that no matter how harshly life had treated them before, this experience would forever shape her perspective on love, life, and community, reminding her always that true belonging is built upon shared experiences and kindness exchanged between souls who dare to connect. As Ada, Eli, Jonah, and Cole began their journey down the path at dawn, the air filled with promise and the scent of dew-kissed grass. The world seemed to come alive around them, and every step they took felt like a step into a new beginning. Ada could hardly believe how much had changed in such a short time. Just hours before, they had been lost in despair, and now they were surrounded by hope and friendship. "Where are we headed today?" Eli asked as he trailed behind with Cole, his little feet scuffing against the ground. Cole smiled back at him, his rugged face softening in the morning light. "How about we head towards that nearby town? I hear there's a farmer's market that runs every weekend. We might find some fresh fruits or even meet some friendly folks." "Can we get apples?" Eli squeaked excitedly. "Apples it is," Cole replied cheerfully. As they walked together, Ada found herself reflecting on the bond that had formed between them all. It was remarkable how quickly friendships could blossom when nurtured by kindness and shared experiences. She glanced at Cole, who walked confidently with her boys by his side. He was not just a drifter anymore but a trusted companion who had shown them compassion when they needed it the most. Together, they ventured through enchanted woods filled with vibrant colors as sunlight streamed through the leaves overhead. The laughter of her boys echoed off the trees, each giggle felt tight in Ada's chest as she realized how much joy had returned to their lives since meeting Cole. With every story they shared and every laugh they exchanged, the fear and worry that once clung to her heart faded like mist in morning sun. Arriving at the town square, Ada felt a rush of nerves mixed with excitement. People bustled about, their voices mingling with the lively sounds of musicians playing nearby. She could see colorful stalls filled with fruits, vegetables, and handmade crafts lining the streets. "Stay close," she reminded her boys as they entered this bustling space brimming with life. But even as she said it cautiously, she was surprised by how free she felt, not just physically but emotionally too. Her past no longer loomed over her like a shadow. Instead, hope illuminated their path forward. At one stall overflowing with ripe strawberries and plump apples, Ada watched as Cole engaged easily with a vendor, a woman whose smile matched the bright colors of her produce. As he spoke animatedly about his travels, Ada turned her attention to Eli and Jonah, who eagerly reached out for ripe fruit. Their faces lit up like sunshine when they tasted fresh berries, simple moments that made Ada realize how rich life could be when shared together. As they moved from stall to stall collecting treasures from friendly sellers who welcomed them warmly into their community, Ada found herself feeling more rooted than ever before, part of something bigger than just survival, a family forged through love and resilience. Later that afternoon, while sitting beneath a shady tree enjoying their newfound bounty picnic style on soft grass, Ada paused to take it all in. A moment filled not only with delicious food but laughter ringing out freely around her boys as they delighted in each other's company. Turning to Cole beside her enjoying an apple slice himself, she said sincerely, "I can't thank you enough for everything you've done for us." Cole smiled softly back at her. "We all need someone sometimes," he replied simply yet meaningfully. In that instant, under sprawling branches dappled with sunlight illuminating their laughter, the connection between them strengthened further still. It became clear that this bond was not merely an escape from hardship but rather an opportunity for growth toward something profound. Friendship that created lasting change within them all. With renewed courage blooming within her heart, fueled by compassion shared amid everyday moments filled with joy, Ada recognized that together they would embrace whatever came next hand in hand. Because true friendship is built upon resilience forged amidst struggle, enabling love to flourish even where one least expects it to thrive.